Hi everyone, welcome back to my weekly coaching call on PMI ACP certification examination sample questions. Today I've got another set of 8 questions which will help you with your preparation for the examination. Okay, let's dive into the questions for today. Okay, so before we start off with the questions, I always recommend that you go through the tips or techniques that are required to solve the questions in the examination. So at this point in the video, I request you to pause and go through all these points, which will help you solve the questions in the examination. Okay, I've explained you in detail about each of these points in my previous videos. Please refer to those videos and understand what each of these points mean. Okay, so I'll straight away dive into the questions. So here's the first question for the day. Which agile framework focuses on limiting work in progress to improve flow efficiency? All right, let's look at the options. This is a straightforward question. Option A, Scrum. Scrum talks about time boxing and the sprints that are used in working on a development of a feature or working on the product backlog, but it does not emphasize or specify about work in progress limits. Okay, so that's not the right option. Option B, extreme programming. Again, extreme programming focuses on technical practices like pair programming and test-driven development. Okay, and it does not talk about work in progress limits. So which means B is also not an appropriate option. Okay, option C, Kanban. Yes, this is the right answer. Kanban actually emphasizes limiting work in progress to improve efficiency, reduce the bottlenecks, and deliver value faster. Okay. In Kanban, what happens is that the work items move faster through a continuous flow rather than fixed sprints. So this will help the deployment move or the development move faster. Okay, so option C is the right one, but let's look at the last option as well. Option D, SAFE, Scaled Agile Framework. Um, SAFE talks about how we can, approach the scaling of a framework, scaling of Scrum practices or Agile practices with large enterprises, but it does not talk about work in progress focused method. All right. So looking at all the options, so the best option here is option C, which is Kanban. Okay. Moving on to the next question. What should the team do? Here, the question is for the team. Okay. And what is the scenario talking about? A product owner frequently changes the acceptance criteria of user stories mid-sprint. Okay, what is an acceptance criteria? Acceptance criteria is specific to individual user stories or features and define what the product owner will accept as meeting the requirement. Okay, so if this changes quite often, what is going to be the impact? Which means the team will not be able to arrive to any conclusion or develop in an appropriate manner if the acceptance criteria keeps on changing. Okay, so let's look at what the options are. What should the team do here? Okay, accept the changes to keep the customer satisfied, which means like when if the acceptance criteria is changing often during the sprint, which means that is disrupting the focus of the team and the sprint commitments, right? So which means this is not the right approach that the team should be taking. So option A is incorrect. Moving on to option B, request that changes go through proper backlog refinement, right? This is the right approach. So whenever any changes are coming up during the sprint, to add any backlog items, product backlog items, to remove any product backlog items, the proper way that should be followed is to go through proper backlog refinement. Okay, so that is the right approach. However, let's look at the other options if they are better suitable in this situation. Okay, let's look at option C. Stop working until the criteria are finalized. Again, stopping to work will lead to delay in the delivery. So instead, the team should clarify the expectations rather than just stopping the work. Okay, right. So which means option C is also not the appropriate approach here. Okay, looking at option D, allow only developers to make changes to user stories. Okay, um, actually, the product owner um, is responsible to refine the product backlog, but not the developers. Okay, so which means option D is also incorrect. Of all the options, the best suitable answer and the right approach here is to go through proper backlog refinement, right? Okay, moving forward to the third question. Here it is. Which agile artifact provides a visual representation of remaining work in a sprint? Okay, so we have two artifacts which represent or show the visual representation of regarding work. Okay, so one is a burn down chart and the other one is burn up chart. One chart shows how much of work is remaining, and the other chart shows how much work has been completed so far in a um, in a agile project. Okay, let's look at the options, which is the right one, which shows what how much work is remaining. All right, the options are burn down chart. Okay, so we spoke about this chart. Yes, this is the right answer here because the burn down chart shows how much work is remaining in a sprint. Okay, so let's look at the other options as well. So this is a straightforward answer, but let's see what the other options talk about. Option B, product backlog. So it only talks about what all user stories are there that are supposed to be developed, but it does not show how many are completed and how many are remaining to be worked on. Okay, so which means this is the wrong option. Option C, sprint retrospective. So retrospective is all about looking at how the team has performed in the in that particular sprint, and how the development has gone in that particular sprint. But it does not talk about how much remaining work is there in that particular sprint. Okay, the retrospective usually comes at the end of the sprint. It does not come, in the middle of the sprint, or it does not come through the sprint, throughout the sprint, wherein we can monitor the progress. But retrospective is purely about how the team has performed, how the that particular sprint has gone in terms of development. So C is inappropriate. Okay, option D, roadmap. Um, Roadmap actually shows high-level project plans, not the sprint progress. So which means D is also not appropriate. Okay, so of all the options, as we spoke initially, it's the burn down chart that shows the remaining work in a sprint. So that is the right answer. Okay, moving on to the next question. Okay, what should they focus on? Who and at what instance? So let's see what the question is talking about. An agile team wants to improve the accuracy of their sprint planning. Okay, so it's for the team, and they want to improve the accuracy. These are the keywords. Okay, increasing their velocity every sprint. Okay, so the first option says, like, if the team is going to improve their velocity, which means they are going to absorb more and more work or more and more user stories every sprint, and increasing that, going on sprint by sprint. So does it actually help? No, it actually, adds more of pressure to the team to perform more, to deliver more, but it does not focus on improving accuracy. It is only looking at delivering more and more. So adding more and more work into our bucket, into the team's bucket, only improves pressure, and it also indirectly or directly, it'll indicate that the team is not focusing on accuracy or quality of work, but they are only focusing on delivery of more number of items. Okay, which means A option is incorrect. Okay, option B, refining their backlog and using historical velocity data. Yes, this could be the right approach because accurate sprint planning, which means that when we are looking at how much that the team can deliver with accuracy, with effective approach, is all depending upon how well the sprint planning is done. Okay, and how well the backlog is refined, or how well the user stories are defined in a product backlog. Okay, so which means and also understanding the past velocity, so how much they could deliver in the previous sprints, and how much they could deliver with accuracy, how well they were able to perform in the previous sprints. So studying these factors and following these approaches like refining the product backlog will actually help the team to understand and deliver better with better accuracy in the sprints. So which means option B is the right option. However, before finalizing that, let's look at what the other options are available here. Prioritizing low effort tasks over high value ones. This is only talking about how are we going to prioritize and deliver, or which user story to be delivered first, or user story to be delivered at a later stage. But it is not talking, or it is not emphasizing about the accuracy to be delivered in the sprints. Okay, which means this is not the right option. Okay, option D, using waterfall style detailed planning. Okay, agile is more adaptive ways of working, not rigid like the waterfall methodology. So option D is also not appropriate. Okay, so of all the options that we have seen here, option B is the right answer and the right approach to be taken. Refining the product backlog and using historical velocity data through which they can improve the accuracy. The team can improve the accuracy of their sprint planning. All right. Moving on to the next question. Okay, what is the first step in this process? Okay, it's talking about the first step, and what is the process? A team wants to adopt test-driven development, and they want to look at what should be the first step. Okay, even before we go through the options, let's understand what test-driven development process follows. Okay, in test-driven development, the usual process that is followed is red, green refactor cycle. Here, which means that even before writing a code, even before approaching towards writing a code, what the team does is the team writes three different types of codes, wherein three different types of tests, I'm sorry, wherein they are categorized into red, green, and refactor. Okay, the first thing is red, writing a failing test, which means what leads them to fail to meet that particular requirements is something that is defined in this particular test. Okay, that's red. Green is write a minimal code to pass the test. Okay, and three, refactor, improve the code without changing the behavior. Okay, this is the cycle that every team follows in a test-driven development. Right. So now that we understood what is the process that test-driven development goes through, let's look at the options here. Option A, write just enough code to pass the test. Okay, so in the cycle that we have discussed just now, it's red, green, and refactor. So writing just enough code to pass the test is talking about the green factor. Okay, which comes second in the process. right? Which means this option is not the right answer. This is not the first step. Option B, write a failed automated test for a new feature. Exactly. This is what we have seen in the cycle, red, green refactor, which means red comes first. Writing a failing automated test for a new feature comes first in the cycle. Okay, that's the right answer. However, before finalizing, let's look at what the other options are also there, suggested in this set. Okay, let's see. Refactor existing code before writing a test. Okay, refactoring actually comes at the last step of the cycle of red-green refactoring. So, which means this is not the first one. So, option C is incorrect. Okay, option D, deploy the new feature first, then write tests. That's absolutely incorrect, which goes, or which conflicts the or contradicts the approach of test-driven development. Test-driven development is all about writing the tests first and then only developing the code and then deploying the code. So option D is incorrect. Of all the options, the right option and the right answer here is option B, writing a failing automated test for a new feature. Okay, moving on to the next question. What should the team do? Okay, here is the question for the team. What is the situation? A product owner asked the agile team to complete more work than their velocity allows. And what should the team do here? Okay, let's see the options. Work overtime to meet the new demand. Again, we have discussed this several times that working overtime causes the team to burn out and stress out, and they'll lose on consistency. And agile is all about delivering value consistently, and delivering that the user stories or delivering the features consistently. Working overtime is going to cause them to stress and burning out. So, which means this is not the right approach to be followed. Okay. Option B, increase the sprint duration to accommodate more work. Um, Again, we have discussed this also in several instances, wherein sprints are standard across the project in agile frameworks. This is not going to change according to whatever user stories that are being considered or as per anyone's wish. Sprints are going to be standard across. This is going to be consistent, and that is for the purpose of predictability. Okay, so which means B is also incorrect. Option C, push back and commit only to what they can realistically complete. Yes, this could be the approach, or this is the right approach, in fact, wherein the team has to push back and say what is their capacity and what they can realistically achieve, instead of taking whatever the product owner is saying and taking more and more work and failing to achieve those. Right. So before finalizing this, let's look at what the option D is also suggesting. Accept the extra work and hope to complete it on time. Just hoping to complete it on time doesn't work in agile. It's we should have a proper plan and proper approach towards completing whatever work or features are absorbed into a particular sprint. Okay, so which means option D is also incorrect. Of all the options, option C is the right answer. Push back and commit only to what they can realistically complete. That's the right approach. Right, moving on to the next question. Which agile framework is best suited for scaling agile across multiple teams? Okay, here two keywords that we are supposed to understand. One is scaling agile, and the second one is across multiple teams. Okay, here we are talking about scaling agile frameworks, which handles across multiple teams. Okay, and let's look at what the options are here. A, Scrum. Scrum is only for or best suitable for single team and not for scaling. Extreme programming, sorry, extreme programming is only talking about the best practices that can be followed in terms of improving the quality of the code, like the pair programming and test-driven development. But it does not talk about how to scale agile framework across the multiple teams. Okay, and looking at option C, scaled agile framework or SAFe. Yes, absolutely. This is straight to the point. It is only talking about scaling agile framework that works across large enterprises, working on multiple teams, working with across multiple teams and portfolios. Okay, so that's the right answer. Um, let's look at what the last option is all about. It's Kanban. Again, Kanban. Um, it's only to understand or to enable continuous flow of work and limiting work in progress so that there are no bottlenecks. But this does not talk about, or this is not uh, looking at scaling of any agile practices or agile framework. Okay, so the right answer here is option C, scaled agile framework. Right. Moving on to the last question of the day. Okay, which agile metric helps a team measure the time taken for a task to go from start to completion? Okay, here there could be we could in a hurry get onto um, jump onto conclusion and see that okay, time taken for completion, just focus on what, okay, time taken for completion. But there are two two different types of times, okay, that are measured or that are measured in agile, okay, that are used as metrics, right? One is lead time and one is cycle time. Here we are talking about time taken for a task to go from start to completion. Okay, this is supposed to be underlined. And let's look at the options here. Option A, lead time. Right? Yes, exactly. This is the right option. Lead time is all about the time taken from for the task to complete task from start to completion, and that is the right metric here. Okay, which is the right definition of what the question is talking about. Okay, but before finalizing this, let's look at the rest of the options as well. Velocity. Again, velocity talks about number of user stories that are completed in a particular sprint, but that does not talk about how much time is taken for for a task to be completed. Okay, so that's not the right option. Burn down chart. Again, burn down chart is a information radiator. It is only to track how much work is remaining, but it's not talking about the task duration or how much time is taken. Right? Which means option C is also incorrect. Option D, cumulative flow diagram. So again, flow diagram is only visualizing about about the workflow, how much has been completed or how much is supposed to be completed, how much is left out. But it is not talking about how we can measure the uh, work or how we can measure the time taken for a work for a task to be completed. So which means of all the options, the right option is lead time. Okay, now that I spoke about two different types of times or metrics that we can that are existing, the other time is cycle time. Okay, I'll leave it to you to browse about or understand what cycle time is all about. What is the difference between lead time and cycle time? Okay, and I hope we'll come across cycle time in the next weekly coaching call questions, set of questions, and then let's discuss about it in the future questions. Okay, but I'll let you browse and search for what cycle time talks about. All right, that brings us to the end of the um, set of questions for today. And before we go, I'd like to let you all know that my batch program is starting on April 25th. That is this Friday, and we only have 2 days left for you to join my batch program. Okay, I highly recommend for every aspirant who is looking for clearing PMI ACP examination to join this batch program, because you're not only going to go through the content of what is there in what is covered in PMI ACP syllabus, but we are also going to have much more that will make you clear the examination. Okay, so I'll have another coaching call and one more coaching call in addition to what we are going through for this particular batch. And also, I'll have customized roadmap for everyone of the batchmates for their preparation. And I'll be following up with every individual to ensure that we are following that particular roadmap to clearing the PMI ACP examination. Okay, and also I'll provide 1600 plus questions in a simulator that will help you for your preparation with time boxing and tracking the time for that is taken for each and every question, which is very crucial for everyone who is an aspirant for clearing PMI ACP examination. That will help them to track how much time that they are consuming for each question and how can they improve their approach towards solving the questions. Okay, and I also guarantee the application approval process that is required for your application to be approved by PMI, for ACP examination. Okay, and in addition to that, you'll get the PDUs, 28 PDUs that are required for you to go for the PMI examination, PMI ACP examination. Right, and I'll have a daily follow-up, like I said, according to your roadmap, what we have prepared, customized for every individual. I'll follow up with every individual on a daily basis to ensure that you're following the our customized roadmap and ensure that you are successful with your PMI ACP journey. Okay, and I'm going to reveal, it's right in front of you. Usually, this program is charged at about $699, but for this batch exclusively, the price is cut down straight to $499 only. And this is the best opportunity, best time that you can utilize and take up this particular batch program and get through and be a PMI ACP certified professional. Right, so if you are interested to join my batch program and if you are aspiring to be a PMI ACP at the earliest possible in the lesser time possible, then join my batch program. And for more details, you can actually contact my mentor, my coach, Mr. Amer Ali, and the contact details are given at the bottom of the slide. And I'll be looking forward for you to join my batch program, and let's get on to the way to the success. Right. Well, I'll end this particular call with this note. I'm always looking forward to help more and more people achieve their goal towards PMI ACP certification and be successful in your careers. Right. Thank you so much for joining this call, and I'll see you in the next coaching call. Bye for now.